Welcome to our live video on the City of Yes initiative. We've received a lot of questions about this topic, and that is the reason why we're bringing this information to you. City of Yes is considered the most significant overhaul of the city's rezoning regulations since 1960s. So, if you have any questions or need more information after watching this video, please feel free to DM us and we'll send you all the links and answer all your questions. Thank you for watching.
The city has a housing crisis. Okay, we have a housing crisis for three reasons. One, it's becoming unaffordable to live in New York City, but yet all essential personnel are supposed to live in the city: cops, firemen, nurses, whatever. And the city recognized that these people are living further and further away because they can't afford to live here, and they're trying to get them back. Housing, like any market, is supply and demand. The more supply, the cheaper the value comes down in some cases, and they're trying to get these people closer. Great. Two, we have a homeless crisis. The city of New York has never spent money fixing the homeless problem. They just throw money at it to hide the problem. So by just finding housing for homeless people doesn't solve the problem. And at this point, it's becoming a generational problem. And then the third reason is there's a migrant crisis. And I'm not getting into politics today, but there's tons of people here that need homes. Okay. Shelters are full, hotels are full, there are people on the streets more now than ever. We had to solve the problem. So they calculated the problem as 80,000 apartments. Okay. So in New York City alone, needs to create 80,000 apartments in the next 4 years. So city said, well, we can build projects, solution one, or change the zoning to allow more dense areas so people like us, random one-offs, an extra apartment here, an extra apartment there, and solve the problem that way. The reason they chose this way is because to build projects takes years and years to do, right? You have to design, get approvals, build them, and then find the people. They need to solve the problem today, not 4 or 5 years from now. In fact, 4 or 5 years from now, there's going to be a new problem if there isn't. So they created a new zoning called City of Yes. City of Yes was adopted December 5th. Like I said earlier, 1,800 pages of the 3,200 pages in the zoning were changed. I had the pleasure of reading them over my Christmas break. And we'll discuss 3 main things today. It's important to know there's no one size fits all, right? So what I teach you today isn't across the board. Every lot is still very specific, and you understand why when I'm done, right? Okay. So the first one is they allow bigger buildings, right? So in the past, if you can only build a 0.6 FAR, you can now build a 0.75, okay? It's important to know if you still keep it in one family, you can't go to 0.75, you're still limited to the 0.6. It's only if you introduce that second unit. Because the purpose of City Yes is to provide more housing, right? So, in a more prestigious neighborhood like Toad Hill we were talking about earlier, they're not allowing you to build bigger because you want to build bigger. It has to be a benefit, and it's just slotting in another apartment, okay? Mm-hmm. The second thing they did was...
Can I ask a question though?
Yes.
So say Toad Hill, it's not a 2-family zone. Did they change that?
They did. We now put an ADU, which I'm going to talk about next, right? So ADU stands for ancillary dwelling unit. It's a concept that they started out in California and LA, where you can add an apartment in your home, but it's not an apartment. It's an ancillary dwelling unit. Some people use the word accessory dwelling unit. So if you have a 2-family home and you add an ADU, you're not now a 3-family. You're a 2-family with an ADU. There's a technical difference in the law. They don't, because once you're a 3-family, you become a multiple dwelling, and there's a bunch of other issues.
Does ADU get a separate meter?
It does not. If you want, it can, but it doesn't have to. Where if you have a second family, it has to have a separate meter. So you're allowed to do ADUs in 2 places: in the building or outside the building. So historically, there's a difference between a cellar and a basement. Right? Do we all understand that there's a difference between those 2 things? Okay. Basements were always livable space and counted as floor area, you pay taxes. Cellars, no. Storage does not count as floor area. You can now have an ADU in a cellar. Okay? You have to renovate it. You need smoke detectors, you need egress, you need windows, right? But it's huge because in the past you could never have it. You can also have an ADU in your backyard in a garage. Okay? So if you have a detached garage, you can now convert that garage into an ADU. And you can have someone living in it. Okay? ADUs are limited to 800 square feet, and they're designed for like 1 person living there. Something very important to know. If you want to convert your house to an ADU, it has to be a primary residence. So the idea again is not to have builders get richer, it's to provide housing for the city. So they're trying not to make this like a business plan, they're trying to just make it where, hey, the homeowner can make an extra couple bucks and we're helping the city by housing someone, okay? Now, there's ways around it. And that's still being negotiated with the city. How do you prove it's your primary residence? As of right now, and again, we talk every week, it's the address you put on your tax return. And it only has to be for 1 year. So after a year, you can move away and the ADU can stay. Okay? Third thing they did was waive parking. Because the idea is the homeless people and the migrants don't have cars. So you can provide additional housing without providing parking. Okay?
Does somebody have to come and inspect it after it's converted?
If you hire an architect or engineer and change the C of O like you would do any other time. So yes,
So you
Plumbing
change,
inspection.
you actually change the C of O.
you change the C of O.
If it's a two-family, you're doing a two-family with
An ADU.
an AD, that's it.
Yeah.
It's not gonna.
Plumbing inspections, electrical inspections, construction inspections, architect, land
All the
survey, city
inspections.
fees, asbestos reports, the whole thing.
So, okay, I work for builders, okay. Mostly we're doing like two families, okay, just a little apartment in the basement.
Yes.
So they're not allowed to do that, but once they sell it, that buyer can do that. Let's say that most of them have detached garages. So the builder cannot do that? Make the AD.
Okay, so we're getting a little technical, but the answer is no. And we had this conversation before. So the next thing I was gonna bring up is the city made a mistake.
Huh?
They updated the zoning, but they didn't update the code. So it's not true. There are no builders in New York City right now making ADUs two-family homes because it's not permitted on the code side. Yeah, you can do a one-family. So let's just understand this. Let's talk about this for a second. If you have a two-family home, the zoning allows you to put an ADU, but the code hasn't been updated yet. And the code still classifies that as ADU as now it's a three-family building. Based on the code, a three-family building needs handicap accessibility, a fully sprinkled building, there's a bunch of issues. So today, if you want to convert a two-family building with an ADU, you cannot do it today. June 6th, something's supposed to happen and change, we're gonna see. But a one-family home, absolutely today, can be made an ADU. That's these ADUs in the building. Now, if you want to put an ADU in the garage, yes, a two-family house can do it because it's a separate structure, and a one-family house can do it, it's a separate structure. Yes.
Does it have to respect the lines?
The side yards?
The side yards and all?
Garage needs 3-foot side yards, yes.
3-foot side
Yes.
yards.
I apologize, did you say there was a limit, that there was a minimum square footage for an ADU?
Yeah, 800 square, no, maximum, there's a maximum.
Maximum,
Maximum.
Yeah.
because the garage is not 800,
Well, you can, right, that's why it's a
unless
maximum.
it is.
Make a double garage.
Yeah, so people are making garages bigger to make the ADUs bigger, yes.
Wow,
You can also have a two-story garage now.
What's
but
the
it's gotta
cost
be,
now?
it's gotta be the whole thing, plumbing,
Electric,
Electrical.
construction,
but then you can
inspection.
sign a lease on that too, it's a
That's
separate
right.
unit.
That's right.
Okay.
You're bringing sewer lines in from the main house. It's not separate sewer from the street, not separate water from the street. Everything's tied off the existing service. Okay? You're not getting a separate water and service connection from the street for the
You
ADU.
just branch out from the existing line.
Correct.
Got it.
Okay? Cost, listen, it could be 20 grand for an architect, surveys, soil testing, fees. And then what's it gonna cost around the garage? Another 20 or 30
You're
grand?
talking a lot of money.
So you're like 50, 60 grand, 70 grand. But now,
You're adding it to
I was gonna
the
say
resale
100.
value.
yeah,
As
it
a
could be a hundred.
contractor,
Yeah, you
yeah.
guys listen, Staten Island's different than Brooklyn or Manhattan.
You have a
But-
lot of plumbing,
Yeah,
garages don't have that. electrical.
Exactly.
Do you have like a cheat sheet on all of these things you're talking about?
so there's no cheat sheet yet because we're still negotiating a lot with the city, and every lot is specific. Like for example, the zoning code may allow you to convert that garage to an ADU, but if you don't have the 3 feet, you can't do it. So it's all case specific, okay? But let's talk about the most important thing, which I didn't get to yet, is the city has created new zones called outer and inner transit zones throughout the city of New York. Staten Island does not have any inner transit zones, we only have an outer transit zone, which is the zone along railway. That's where the most benefits are. If you're in the outer transit zone, even if you're in R3X, where you can't have townhouses, you can have townhouses. So, if I were you guys, focus on the outer transit zone. I will share the outer transit zone maps with you guys. It's the Wild West. I have 3 projects, I was telling Christina earlier. Previous to the zoning change, you were able to build 3 two-family detached homes. We're now doing 6 two-family townhouses,
You know, 3X in the outer areas.
because we're in the outer transit
What
zone.
is what is the outer?
It's all on it's all on the railway, okay?
Sorry, I have an appointment.
No problem. So,
How many blocks off the railway, or
it's,
on the
it's,
railway?
no, it's, so, there's also something called transit adjacent. So if you're transit adjacent, it's 50 feet from the railway. You can almost do anything you want. Outer transit zone, it's a little irregular, it's not something set, but I'll share the map with you. That's where you can get the most benefits in City of Yes. Why? Because again, people don't have cars, these people don't have cars, and they need to get to the train to get around. Okay? So, no parking. You can build townhouses. You can build 0.75. You can do the ADUs. So,
So
outer,
this is now, the builders could do this.
yes, in the outer transit zone.
Okay.
Well, anyway, just you can
Right,
do it. Yeah.
right.
Okay. So, sounds great. But let's talk about long-term effects, right? Not to be a Debbie Downer. Who's going to take advantage of these laws? It's probably the people that need the extra money. So it's not the extreme poor, because they're not the landowners, and it's not the extreme rich, because they're not going to make ADUs and houses in Total. It's the working class of Staten Island, which is the nurses, the firemen, the police, the sanitation workers, right? Everybody in this room, right? So let's take neighborhoods like Oakwood and New York, Duncan Hills, right? These are neighborhoods you raise families in. You know, you spend 30 years, 40 years there. Well, what's going to happen is those families could use the extra $1,000 a month for that ADU. But once you convert that garage to an ADU, chances are the money to convert it back to a garage, you'll never do it. So it stays an ADU forever. So what happens now? And I said this earlier. You have a 10-year-old daughter who you're raising a family in this home. They're swimming in the pool. Are you going to feel just as comfortable with them swimming there, knowing there's a person living in the garage, as they do now, where they're not living there? Okay. And what's going to happen is there's going to be incidents over time, and these people that are in these beautiful neighborhoods that are raising families are now going to move to New Jersey, Westchester, or Long Island, and these homes are going to become investment properties, like Brooklyn, where now it's like, oh, I have this 3-family. And so I think generationally from now, there's going to be a lot of changes to Staten Island because of this. And it's not going to be this island where you're raising families and you're staying here. It's going to be more like an investment type property. And then the whole neighborhood will be more investment. Okay? Any questions so far?
Do community boards have any say on what can be done?
No. They did. That's
long gone.
That's long
Yeah.
gone. Okay, the law came out December 5th. Clearly there's some kinks and holes in the zone. So they are in the process of updating things. June 6th, I'm being told. June, nice to meet you.
This is great.
You got it. June 6th, I'm being told there's going to be another code update to allow, to fix that problem with the 2 families being used. The code will be updated. So what we're being told is we have a 1-year grace period. If I file a job today to build a building, I could file it all under the old way or all under the new way. It can't be a mix. So I have jobs that are very close to being approved that I spent 6 months working on, where now the builder has this huge upswing, and I'm starting from scratch, which is great. I get another fee, but they can also get a much bigger property, a bigger house. So it's something to consider. So if any of you are working with builders that are still in the permit process and haven't started yet, they may want to reconsider starting over to get the building. It has to be refiled. You can't just amend the application to now show these things. Because the city is not investing any, almost essentially no time training their employees. They've just dedicated examiners to only do City yes, and they're learning we're all learning as we're going. So when you file a job the old way, it goes to the examiners, the old school ones. When you file the new way, it's going to a specific set of examiners that only do City yes.
How about landmark buildings?
Can they be converted?
Yeah.
Yes, but you need landmark approval. Yeah. So I'm working on something on St. Paul's Avenue right now that is exactly that. They want to do it, but I need landmarks to approve it. Yeah. Which is always the case. What else can we talk about? Be careful because we have a lot of special districts here at Staten Island, right? We have the South Richmond District, Hillside Preservation District, Natural Area. A lot of times CDBS does trump those special districts, but in some cases they don't. So again, this is not a one-size-fits-all scenario. Every lot is still very specific. So don't take my information telling you to run to the bank. It's still, I'm giving you a broad understanding of CDBS. All right, so what's the takeaway? The takeaway is we need 40,000, we need 80,000 apartments in 4 years. We can now build bigger. We can install ADUs in cellars or detached garages. We can waive parking in some cases, and a new zone has been created called the inner and outer transit zones, which give huge benefits to developers to build bigger and more dense, as long as they're there within that zone. Okay?
And everything needs to be electric?
Oh, that's different. That happened prior. So
Yeah.
gas was banned in January of last year.
Right,
That was my presentation last year. So yeah, anything new being built now is all electric. We all know this, right?
still, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of my customers prefer it, which I think they're crazy, but
Oh.
we get a lot of requests to convert from gas to electric. Even like if it's there, you can still renovate and keep the gas
You know what
stove.
their bills are gonna be?
Some-
Astronomical.
It's crazy. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
each their
So
own.
yeah. So I'll explain to you why this happened, right? And those of you who work in the outer boroughs, specifically Manhattan, you probably understand more. There's no way to connect gas pipes together and prove over 100 years they'll never leak. So there are fittings in the gas pipes, right? And what happens is the glue they use to fit those gas pipes dry up over time, and then gas slowly leaks out. Okay, so in these huge buildings in Manhattan, you have gas, gas starting in the cellar and going up 20 stories, and it's all behind the walls. These buildings now are 100 years old. The gas is slowly leaking behind those walls and creating problems. And if they blow up, which has happened, you're looking at devastation across the board. So that's why they're moving to electric. The problem is our grid can't support the electric, which is why over the last 10 years it's been a big push for solar. A lot of people don't like how solar looks, so we design roofs in a way where we don't have to do solar. But the truth is, this is the way of the future, and if you don't want a high electric bill, you're going to be forced to do solar.
Oh, definitely.
It is
Some
important
of
to
the
know.
builders are thinking about putting the solar panels.
Yeah, it is important
Because
to
a lot of
know.
people are gonna shy away from an all-electric house, but maybe if they give them the solar panels,
It
they're
brings
there
the cost
already.
down. Correct. What's important to know though is if there's a natural disaster like Hurricane Sandy and you have solar, the city actually takes your electric for emergency services first before you use it. I'm not sure if you guys knew that. Because you get tied into the grid. Any other questions?
No, thank you so much.
Okay, so if anyone wants to stay and has you have lots or land and you want to talk specific, we can talk specific. I have at least another half hour with you guys if you like. If not, you all have, so let's get to the back of this. So this is my email address and phone number. You all can call me or email me anytime you like, have access to me. These are my team members. So anyway, let's just say you're listening and you see some issues. Take a picture of it, text it to me, hey, what does this mean? And I'll respond and I'll tell you.
Thank you guys for joining.